This is Director Misael Cabrera. He was appointed the director of the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality by Governor Ducey, did I say that right? In August of 2015. Director Cabrera has led the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality's agency-wide transformation, applying private sector techniques to deliver better, faster, more cost-effective environmental protection for Arizona. And before he joined, he held a variety of technical and leadership roles at several environmental and engineering consulting firms. He's a registered professional engineer and has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Jolon. First of all, let me let everyone know what an honor and privilege it is to be sharing our journey with you today. I'll also let you know that at the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, ADEQ as we call it, we still have a lot to learn. We still are sometimes too bureaucratic. We still are often too slow. And so continuous improvement for us is an ongoing journey. But if some of our past lessons learned and journey can help you all, it's a gift for us to share. I want to start this afternoon not with a success, but with a failure. So at about 2016, I was just 1 year into my directorship. In fact, it was a matter of months since I'd been appointed. I had been with the department as a deputy director since late 2011, and we had been using lean principles and tools for about 4 years already. But here's what happened. I found myself on the other end of a live mic and a camera. I was feeling quite nervous because what I was going to have to do in that interview with NBC Channel 12 is I'd have to focus on what we were going to do next because the things that we had done were insufficient. You see, there was a small town called Sanders, Arizona, in the northeast part of our state. This town is surrounded by tribal lands, and there was a small water system serving just a few residents, and they had been serving water that had uranium levels above federal limits and had been doing so for over a decade. In addition, the public water system had not informed the customers that they were drinking this water that was above federal limits. Now, at ADEQ, we had issued on the order of 76 compliance and enforcement documents. We'd sent letters, we'd sent consent orders, we'd sent all kinds of things, but we had not solved the problem. And given that having zero water versus having water that's slightly above federal limits is more dangerous, we had not taken the step of shutting down the system. The very tragic part of it is that there was a pipeline with clean water 500 feet away. We didn't know about it because it belonged to the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority, and so it wasn't on any of our maps. But the fact of the matter is that this situation occurred despite the fact that we were doing Kaizen events and that we had some rudimentary performance boards up at all of our teams. It happened because we lacked a cohesive management system that had continuous improvement at its core. And so I'm going to talk about what we did and what we have been doing after that. In fact, we not only solved that problem, but we've dramatically reduced the number of drinking water systems that are delivering water above federal limits. In fact, we've improved our performance by over 60%, and of the total of over 1,500 systems across Arizona, most of which are smaller systems that lack the wherewithal to buy new equipment when federal standards change. We have just a few that are still having problems. Now, what we did is we changed from just regulating, and we decided that we should regulate and facilitate. In other words, we not only send letters and send notice of violation, but we actually problem solve with the water systems to help them improve their performance. We have an entire toolkit that helps these water systems find funding. We even worked with the legislature to pass a law producing a grant program that would allow us to direct fund equipment purchases for some of these smaller systems that couldn't afford to improve their systems. In addition to that success, oh, and by the way, that's about 500,000 people that are now drinking healthy water where they weren't before. In addition to that, in our state Superfund or state hazardous waste cleanup program, we had not closed a site in the first 26 years. We had not finished a cleanup on these large, complex sites in over 26 years as of 2013. In the last 8 years, we've delisted and closed 7 sites. We did this by accelerating how fast we implement remedies at these hazardous waste sites. So not only have we improved drinking water, we're cleaning up hazardous waste sites faster. In addition, we are conducting more inspections without having more staff. In fact, 82% more inspections than we were in our baseline period. When we do our inspections, we're finding that facilities are in compliance more often because we are working with facilities to help them be in compliance. We issue checklists. We do outreach events. We publish our top 10 violations list to the regulated community so that they can be in compliance all the time and certainly during our inspections. And when we do find violations, which is still quite often, we are helping facilities return back into compliance faster than ever before. In terms of our permit decision making, we are delivering permits and making decisions on permits, which include denials sometimes, about 91% faster. Now, we made vast improvements in our paper processing, but in 2016, we deployed our ADEQ online permitting and reporting portal, and now we have ridiculously low average timeframes for our permits. In fact, our ADEQ online permitting portal, which we design using lean tools and techniques, accounts for about 38% of all of our services. For the services and permits that are available online, those are being delivered 99% faster than ever before. And we've estimated the economic benefit of that speed, and that cost estimate is at about $154 million every single year. Now, we all know that economic benefit estimates are often exaggerated. So let's say that number's half wrong. That's still over $75 million per year of economic benefit. And here's how we funded that program. Not by asking the legislature for new revenue or new funding. What we did is we looked at savings that we were producing and cash balances that we had in existing funds, and we asked the legislature to transfer those funds to an automated projects fund where we were able to establish our platform. And our platform is award-winning. In fact, just this year, we were honored by the CIO 100 list as one of the honorees. And this is a big deal because we weren't competing just with government organizations. We were competing with organizations like Accenture and Allstate Insurance and Amgen. In addition to producing mission results, producing online results, we've also produced savings for the state and for our customers. We vacated a building which had excess in space and that we no longer needed in 2017, returning $1.84 million to the state coffers. Currently, we're on contract to sell another building in our Tucson area for almost $500,000. In our main campus in Phoenix, what we did is we consolidated office space in 2015, reducing the total square feet by 30,000 and reducing our rent expense by about $500,000 a year. Now, we did this not because we fired a whole bunch of people. In fact, we have been pretty steady in our staffing levels since about 2010. It's just that we had lots of excess space, which we consolidated to produce the savings. Now, we're also producing savings for Arizona citizens. In those areas where we have air pollution in excess of federal limits, we have a vehicle emissions inspections program. And in that program, we charge for the testing. We reduced in 2014 our testing fees by about $10, reducing the cost to motorists by almost $70 million since 2014. We're very proud of that. In addition to this, we have done all of these things with a relatively flat budget. What we can see is that we are still 15% less budget than we were back in 2008. Now, our budget went down during the Great Recession and then it came back up during the recovery, but it came back up with a brand new program that needed to be funded. And so we are still producing lots of results for less budget than we were over a decade ago. Now, lean and lean management system, the Arizona management system that we use at the department, it's a system that engages the staff. It's a system that models everybody every day, gathering in small groups, asking, how did we do yesterday? Where is the waste? And what can we do better today? And in that kind of system, employee engagement increases as well. We have measured almost every year since 2012 employee engagement. And what we can see is that there's a steady increase in employee engagement over time. We survey employees every year, asking them a specific set of questions, and then we can calculate an engagement ratio. Some of you may notice that there's up and downs in this, and what that tells us is that the data is real. If it was a perfect line going straight up, you should be suspicious. Now, how did we do this? Well, first of all, at ADEQ, we started with our R&D program. Our R&D program means rip off and deploy any good idea you find anywhere. And in fact, these are some of the books that we utilized in designing our system. We Don't Make Widgets is a seminal book that's very important. Government That Works by John Bernard is fantastic. Extreme Government Makeover by Ken Miller, and The Lean Management System by Joe Murley. I'll talk a little bit more about his company in the next slide. This is a how-to guide, how to implement a lean management system. Now, we started with a compelling vision back in 2012 for balanced leading-edge environmental protection with radical simplicity for customers and staff through technical and operational excellence. And we started by, just like most people do, doing Kaizen events, problem-solving events. We then selected some agency and program-specific outcome measures, not outputs, but outcomes, stuff what we necessarily don't control, but that we can influence. We then boiled it down to team-level sub-measures or lead metrics, things that we can control and that we can do, so that we could iterate our lead metrics and see what the outcomes were at the program and agency level. We then deployed those with team-level boards all across the agency, and we established a cadence of huddle meetings everywhere. Now, we had gotten this far, and still had the problem that I started this talk with. And so I'm going to distinguish a little bit about other things that we had to do. We also had to establish the ADEQ way. These were habits that we would require from all of our managers. And in fact, our leadership chain is evaluated almost on a yearly basis against these habits, in addition to standard performance appraisals. See, what we wanted to do is we wanted to change the culture at DEQ. And we noticed that culture is a function of default mindsets, habitual behaviors, and consistent outcomes. And we also noticed that these things are all mutually reinforcing. In fact, it is not that you have a mindset, then you do things, and then you get outcomes. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes your outcomes change your mind. Other times your habits change your outcomes, which changes your mind. In fact, working habitually in a certain way changes your habits, and it can change your outcomes and simultaneously change your mind. They're simultaneously reinforcing. But as leaders of an organization, when we want to make a difference, we have to understand that the biggest lever we have is in the work environment. What do people do when they're at work? And this is the key to changing a culture. And so what we did is we looked for a model, a holistic management system model that involved lean principles. And what we found at ADEQ, after about 100 hours of personal research, is this model here from the Murley Group. I named them specifically because they've done some groundbreaking thinking that, as implemented at DEQ, has made a huge difference. It is holistic, it involves every part of the organization, and it works. And so here's what it looks like at DEQ. First, we start with strategic planning, and our strategic planning includes goals with targets. I will say that if you don't have goals with targets, you are simply not doing real strategic planning. And I recommend goals with targets, not just process measures and output measures, but that you sign up for outcomes, things that matter to citizens, things that states and state governments should care about. We then deployed performance boards and flow boards. Performance boards were not enough for us. We needed flow boards that showed us how the work was flowing, boards that we could see the work and where it was getting stuck, boards and where we could see that things were languishing and not getting resolved. We then established a tiered and rigorous daily huddle scenario where at the team level they meet, they huddle, then they escalate problems to the program level. They meet, they huddle, they escalate programs to the division level. They meet, they huddle, they escalate problems to the agency level. And we do this as part of our and-on response. And-on simply means alarm or signpost. And what it is, it's an indicator that something needs some problem solving. And we take that very seriously at all levels of management at DEQ. This is what was missing. And this is what had me initially in front of that camera, having to explain what we were going to do versus the successes that we had had. We also do tiered Gemba walks. These are walks where every leader at every level goes down, looks at the performance, looks at the flow, then visits with a staff member at the desk, asking them about their standard work, asking them what problems they have, asking them about what help they need. We also have a rigorous monthly review process by which we look at every single program and we evaluate it thoroughly across 4 criteria that I'll talk about. Again, the huddles, the Gemba walks, the business reviews, they are pursuant to and-on response, making sure that leaders at every level are helping solve problems when problems come up. Problems are solved via staff development. Sometimes all it takes is one-on-one coaching, and we have one-on-one coaching that occurs for every staff member at least every 2 weeks, where we look at staff development, status of projects, and continuous improvement issues. But also in problem-solving events, where we huddle together for a few hours, a few days, or a week-long event to solve specific problems. See, problem solving is at the heart of continuous improvement, and a complete management system helps you identify problems. It helps you figure out where those problems are and figure that out early so that you don't end up in front of a camera talking about what you're going to do because frankly you're embarrassed about what you didn't do. Now, I've got some photos here. This is our tiered huddles that start at the unit, they escalate to the program, they go to the division, and then they come to the agency level. I find out about any major problem in DEQ in about 2 hours every day. This happens every single day. And so problems don't languish at ADEQ. They don't get hidden at ADEQ. Problems are safe. Problems are gold, and we all engage from staff to the director level at solving those problems. Now, once you have a system that's that rigorous, it's easy to virtualize. Right now, over 90% of our staff are working from home during the pandemic. Our staff figured out that Trello was an easy transition, and so we just transitioned all of our physical boards to virtual. So this is a physical board right here for the agency where we look at our team members, we look at mission outcomes, we look at quality, we look at delivery, we look at continuous improvement, and we look at costs. This is an example here of a virtual flow board. It tracks, this particular one is an agency flow board that tracks implementation of laws to make sure that we're respecting the legislature's wishes and implementing those laws. It has a time component. Things go into andon when they're taking too long, and problems are escalated when that happens. In our monthly business review, we look at human potential, which is our people. We look at performance measures. We look at strategic project progress, and we look at budget and data. We have a specific report that looks at all of these issues. Again, what we try to do is identify areas where there are problems so that we can respond to those andons and improve. Now, why should we have a system that's this rigorous with measurement? Why should we have a system that requires so much for its leaders? Well, for me, the answer is very simple. When we work for government, we are given policy and budget boxes. Sometimes those policy and budget boxes are small. And what we should do in those cases is we should fill those boxes with excellence. Sometimes our policy and budget boxes are larger. And when we have that opportunity, we should fill those boxes with excellence. You see, the work that we do is vitally important. At the Department of Environmental Quality in Arizona, what we do not only affects the today, it affects the tomorrow and generations to come. And whatever policy or budget objectives we're given, we should deliver that with excellence. The work we do is important, and it's worth being excellence for. With that, I will close and open up to any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Lots of really exciting information. We've got a couple questions for you. The first one, can you explain Gemba walks?
Yes. So what happens is at the frontline level, a manager at the lowest level of the organization, they will go look at the performance from their board and their flow, and then they will visit with each team member on issues that are looking problematic. So work that's taking too long, a performance that's not looking right. And so the manager goes directly to the desk level. They ask the individual what's going on, not in an accusatory fashion, but in a fashion of humble inquiry to find out what the problem is. They ask about standard work. And when you're asking about standard work, you're looking for the presence of standard work. Do you have standard work for that issue? And if you have standard work, what's the sufficiency of the standard work and the adherence to the standard work. So sometimes the manager, it's as simple as, oh, you missed this piece of the standard work, do that, and that should help with the issue. Other times it's a problem that the staff member and that manager can't solve together. And then what there is for them to do is escalate it to the next level. That happens on the unit basis every day. At the program basis, which is the next tier up, the value stream manager does this once or twice a week, and they look at their performance board, they look at their flow board, they see where the problems are, and they trace that problem right back down to the desk level. They now have the unit manager and the staff member, and they ask the questions of what's going on, what help do you need, do you have standard work, are you adhering to the standard work, and does the standard work need to be improved? If all of that's in place and the problem's too big for that, the program level then escalates it up to the value stream. The program level then escalates it up to the division level where the same processes occur. As director of the agency, I do a Gemba walk every Tuesday morning. I go to the performance board, I go to the flow board, I look for problems, I then talk about those problems, then we go right down with the division director, the program manager, the unit manager. We go right back down to that staff members cube. We find out what's going on, what help can we give you, is there standard work, are you adhering to standard work, is the standard work not sufficient? And if all of that's in place, sometimes what happens is that the director of the agency needs to make a tough phone call to one of our customers. And so all of that happens in Gemba Walk. Sometimes I have action items, oftentimes the division, the program, the unit, and the staff member have action items. But it's all set up to identify problems and support staff in resolution of those problems.
Thank you. We've got only got a couple minutes left, but we do have a couple of questions on huddles. So how much time do the frontline employees spend on huddles each day? And how do they work now? Are they literal or are they virtual?
So our huddle meetings are virtual right now, and they take 7.5 minutes at the unit level, 7.5 minutes at the program level, 7.5 minutes at the division level, and they take 15 minutes at my level because I'm long-winded.
All right, very good. One quick question. Was it difficult to change the mindset of any layer of the organization seeing the problem as something negative versus an opportunity? And what are some of the major actions taken by management to reinforce problem identification as a sign of improvement?
So one of the things that we do is we have a continuous improvement tracker. So in order to, and we have specific goals for every program. Basically, our goal is that there be 2 employee-initiated improvements per year per employee. And so program managers are motivated to identify problems and then come up with continuous improvement. Making problems safe is part of everyone's journey when you're into continuous improvement. It's been very difficult for me sometimes because when somebody brings a problem to you, what there is for you to do is say thank you. The thing that you should never do is say, why is this coming up now? That question hurts a continuous improvement culture. The first thing out of a leader's mouth when a problem comes to their desk should be thank you. And I can tell you that's a challenge because when you get bad news all of a sudden on an already stressful day, it's hard to say thank you. But that's part of the process, and it requires training of the entire management staff. Over time, it is possible. Over time, it is worthwhile, but it does take a lot of effort and reinforcement. Plus, there has to be systemic solutions in terms of goal setting for management chains, training, and lean leader standard work and lean leader behaviors.
Okay. All right, one last question. Could you explain the way you worked on making the database lean And what were some of the steps taken to improve the way the workflows were organized?
I missed the first part of that question, Jolon. Can you repeat it for me, please?
Absolutely. Can you explain the way you worked on making the database lean?
So a couple of things. Before we started our transformation at ADEQ, we were fortunate to have a centralized database. It was Oracle, and the system was called Azure Write. And it housed 60 to 70% of all of our environmental performance data. And so that greatly facilitated our measurement journey. But we also had program level measures that were not included in the database. And we also had brand new measures that we had to start up from scratch. Over time, what we've done is we, one, eliminated single towers of knowledge. So it used to be that our database, there was one person at the department that knew all the intricacies of it, and that's very, very damaging. You don't want to have that. If you have that today, you have to have more than one person that knows how the database is architected and how it works. Once we did that, now we could put teams together to improve the database over time, and we have such a team today. In terms of data governance, that is still part of our journey. We're still needing to do more on that realm, is making sure that our data is clean and that our data is meaningful every time. In fact, we have a strategic project this year to get us to improve in that arena. The other piece in terms of helping it all be a lot leaner, what I would say is that there's going to be staff members that say, what's more important, actually getting the work done or measuring the work? And so the answer to that question is very simple. There is no definition of excellence that doesn't include measurement. Art is measured by how many people come to visit the art, or how many, what the purchase price of a certain piece of art is. So the Eiffel Tower is measured by how many people come to visit that piece of art every year. A Rembrandt painting is measured by how much somebody is willing to pay for it. In other words, there's measurement. In churches, churches count. What's the weekly attendance? In nonprofits, people measure not only the donations they receive, but they measure what they actually got accomplished. In sports, there's lots of measurements. In the Olympics, there's lots of measurements. And so there is no definition of excellence that does not include measurement. And so early on, measurement may be a little inefficient, and that's okay. It's part of the learning process. Over time, you will get down to the key performance indicators that really drive the mission work of your particular organization, but that takes a little time. The key is that transformation is more about application than it is information. You can't train your way into a continuously improving organization. You have to measure and do. You have to plan, do, check, act. The check part requires measurement, which requires some sort of data systems and some sort of roll-up. It's a necessary part of continuous improvement.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing with us your success. It's very much appreciated. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this breakout session. As you log off, you can copy and paste the link that I just posted in the chat to access your next breakout session. And we do stress, please access that through Chrome. Thank you again, everyone, for participating. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.